Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets. Welcome to our latest edition of Adeptus On-Air, and today we have a tremendous guest in Kurt Sasso. He is the host of Two Geeks Talking. What a great name for that, which we'll definitely get into. But also just a focus on comics, film, music, entertainment. So Kurt, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, James. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's I got lucky way back when I found the name of the show and got the website early. So, I think it's been a wonderful stroke of fate.
Awesome. And usually, you're the one doing the interviewing, but today we get to talk about you for a change. So hope you enjoy it. And just for starters, how did you get into the world of entertainment interviews?
Well, for me, I got into it with that age-old, question, hey, we should make a podcast. And back in 2008, when I first started, a friend of mine and I, Phil, were creating a website database for webcomics, which was actually the original webcomics.com. And because we had this database of over 4,000 webcomic creators, I was like, you know what, we should create a podcast, interview these amazingly talented indie creators that at the time no one really knew about. And let's get them on the show. Let's give them a platform to promote themselves, be a creative force for comics and the indie comic scene. And he was like, okay, go ahead. I'm too busy. So with much technological struggle and trials and tribulations and learning how to podcast from the very beginning, we could talk about technology and all that stuff as well. It's as of August 8th, 2024, as of this recording, we're starting our 16th year. We have not stopped. We have not had hiatus. We have, I say we, it's me, but we have done everything we can to keep this platform for entertainment for those professionals, whether they're pros or indies, give them a nice platform to promote themselves and maybe have some fun and learn about themselves in some way, shape, or form with the introspective questions I ask.
Wow, that's amazing. And total, you've done, I think I read 1,600 maybe? I don't want to shortchange you on that.
At this point, it might be 1,600. By about 2012, 4 years in, I had already almost reached 700 interviews. I've lost count over the decades. It's been a long time. I say 1,200, but it could be closer to 16. It could be something along that line. And it's... there's so many great talented people that have been in the indie scene, no matter what entertainment industry they were in, and they've gone on to become professionals with maybe the big two like Marvel, DC, or maybe have worked in the film industry. And just so many talented people that I'm glad they were, the show was the first stop in their journey.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just for our audience who may not know, can you explain the difference of when you say indie scene? What does that mean, indie scene versus professional?
So the indie scene is kind of it's a mislabel in some cases, but an indie scene is you're an independent creator in the entertainment industry, whether you're an independent creator in comics, where you're creating for yourself. You're creating for a small community that you're slowly building up and where you're not really recognized in terms of a professional standing by whatever standard that particularly is, but you've built your own community, your own base, and you become your own entrepreneur in a sense for your own profession. So you're opening your own doors to becoming a professional in your own capacity. And I think a lot of people that start their journey, whatever the case may be, they may not see themselves as business people or professionals in some way, shape, or form. But as soon as you create something, whether it's film or comics or music or a song or whatever, you're a professional, in my opinion.
What are some of your favorite interviews and why? Some of your favorite interviews you've had, like you said, at least 1,200. What makes some of your favorite ones and why?
It's hard to pick my favorites, but I've had a few. I've been fortunate enough to interview like Phil Folio, who is the comic creator or co-creator of Girl Genius, which is an amazing comic series that spanned over the past 40 years. He was one of my first 10 guests on the show way back when. I just got him back on the show recently, which was a 13-year difference between the last time he was on, which was great to see. We chatted about the industry, how he got involved with Magic the Gathering. I got to understand his creative process a little better with his amazing wife Kaja as well, and they've been a wonderful duo overall. So you learn a little bit about the industry and the business of how to create comics, especially from an independent scene, a truly independent scene, because they're their own publisher. I've been fortunate enough to interview, say, Neil Adams when he was alive a few times. That was a wonderful experience. Of course, one of the amazing artists of DC Comics and Green Lantern and Batman and a bunch of others back in the 80s. I've interviewed actors, actresses, Chris Holden Reed, Anna Silk, when they were first starting Law School about a decade ago or so. I got to interview them when there was only 20 of us at the premiere in a small little cubby hole of a conference at Fan Expo Canada. And they've been wonderful to follow their careers over the past, 10 or so years, and a bunch of others. I think the perfect guest on the show is someone that's willing to talk about themselves, that's willing to engage in conversation, and that's willing to kind of dive deeper into their creativity, not just the standard answers that you get or standard questions that you get that may or may not be AI generated. not on this show. These are all custom created for each guest. I can safely say that.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you about creatives, because those are some of my favorite people that I come across. What are some of the common characteristics you see in great creative people?
I think the ability never to stop what they're doing, no matter how hard it gets. I think that's the key point. Whether you're professionally successful or whether you're financially successful with it, you have to start somewhere. And if you keep doing what you love doing, it doesn't matter what the world says you are, or what the world says that you need to accomplish financially. You're accomplishing what your life is and what your goals are. I think that's the most common factor and no matter what industry it is, in entertainment or any industry for that matter. I think the ability to network and communicate your ideas and your concepts and have conversations, truly good conversations with like-minded people and those that may approach you in terms of getting your name out there for your industry. Never be afraid to knock on someone's door that's more famous than yourself and ask questions, because that's how we all learn and how we all improve. I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age of social media, they don't approach these people because they think they're on the pedestal. They're too far out of reach. And you just need a quick email or quick message, whether they respond to you or not. Maybe you'll get a canned response. Maybe you'll get an actual friendship. Who knows? But at least you've taken that step. And a lot of people need to take that step in that direction, especially for networking. And I think the final thing is keep telling people about what you're doing. Don't stop at just one project. Keep saying, yeah, I'm interested in these topics, or I love these hobbies. Who else enjoys these types of conversations or these types of things? That opens up more doors than you realize if you were just saying, yeah, I do a comic, or I do a film, or I do all of this stuff, and that's all you do. Share your other interests as well and be able to connect with more people in that respect. And I think you'll become a better person, and you'll make friendships and connections you never had before.
So that's really good advice. Really for all genres. That's really good advice. Regarding the comic industry again, is that first? How hard is that first breakthrough? How hard is it to get from indie to I don't even want to say mainstream, but just even that first break to where you're getting the recognition you deserve, and you're getting the not even accolades, but just the respect and for the product that you're creating. How hard is that first step, that first breakthrough? Excuse me.
I think with everything, no matter what it is, it's hard. It's hard. There's doors, there's guardians, there's gatekeepers, there's whatever. But if your work ethic and your work is consistent, then you'll get those accolades. You'll get those professional connections. You'll get that forward momentum that you need and that you deserve. But it takes hard work to do that. It takes consistency, and to be honest, it takes drive. You have to keep doing it no matter what. Even if you're tired, even if you're sick, you just have to keep on pushing forward in some way, shape, or form. And the comic industry itself, because there is so many different avenues, self-publishing, Kickstarter, crowdfunding campaigns, you don't need the big two or the big three anymore to become successful. I know many creators that have been self-published that have had a 20-year career in comics, creating their own works, and they're doing extremely well. Comic conventions have been their bread and butter for the past 2 decades. So you just have to do the work to get to the step you want to be to become successful. And, you know, if you're in comics, talk to other comic creators. Get into those circles that are part of your genre, or those people that are really have been on the forefront and been on the front lines, whether they were in webcomics originally way back in the 2000s and earlier, or maybe they've transitioned from webcomics and actually made it with the big two like Marvel and DC. So make those connections, keep those connections going.
And Kurt, how does the business of comics work? Because, you know, obviously we're a CPA firm, so we're always interested in the business side of things. If you're a content or a comic creator, do you get paid by Marvel, DC? Do you get a piece of every copy that's sold, or how does that work from a business end?
You know, for my limited knowledge as it is when it comes to at least the comic scene itself, it's contracts. All it is contracts. You're going to get either an upfront amount paid towards you, depending on the publisher, or you're going to get a certain amount of maybe for the first half of it, depending on what you're creating. So it could be a 50-50 split. You could get some money up front, and then by the time the comic is done, if that's the way your contract is set based on the publisher, then that's great. But are there residuals afterwards? If you're thinking along that line, there might be. Depends on how successful the book is, and depends on what you are dealing with specifically. So there are different avenues for it, but usually, at least from the crowdfunding perspective, it's usually an all and done situation. So say you're trying to raise $4,000 to $10,000 for your print run. This is issue one of however many issues you have, or maybe it's a one shot. You're going to basically raise the money that you have. You're going to pay your artist, or pay yourself, or pay the printer itself. You know, you have expenses you have to cover. And that's why crowdfunding is a little more easier to work with. There's crowdfunding in terms of Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Zoop is another one more recently for comics specifically. But a lot of times when you're creating these comics, you're not the creator and the writer isn't really paying themselves. They're paying the people that have helped create the comic in order to get their name out there. And any other residual income that comes from it is going to be put towards either another project, or it's going to be put towards the next book in the series. So is it a long-lasting business to be in? Yes, but it takes time, it takes effort, and conversations. And so I know I keep coming back to that, but it's true. It's like your network. There are many people that have been doing this way longer than you have. Get all the advice you can from them, especially if you're doing, say, your first crowdfunding campaign. In regards to Marvel or DC, I can't even fathom a guess as to how much someone would make from those. And do you lose your rights to the character? That's the other thing. Like sometimes a lot of people, a lot of creators nowadays want to keep their rights to what they've created, because now they can actually at least gain more money from it, and they have the flexibility to create other aspects. Or do you want the paycheck and then just give everything over to a Marvel or DC and they can do whatever they want with it? I mean, they've had 50 to 100 years of experience when it comes to creating comics. So I think they have their own menagerie of characters they can kind of pull from.
Yeah, that's true. And some of these characters become toys. Some of these characters become movies. A lot of different things, books. A lot of different spinoffs that could come from that if you make it very successful. So, Kurt, you're back. You have a vast background in IT. How did that come about, and what specific aspect of IT?
Well, for me, I was 20 years in the IT industry in system administration and customer support. So when I graduated from high school, I went right into St. Clair College, community college in IT. I did their system administration, computer programming. I liked the system administration more. So I focused on that as my actual career. And I got lucky with a lot of industries around my local area, from the food production industry to the food growing industry to the medical marijuana industry, of a bunch of others as well. So the industry was here. I didn't have to move to, say, like Toronto in order to gain a job. So I got very lucky in this area here. After a while, I got burnt out, as many people do in an industry that you love. You're passionate about it, but sometimes enough is enough. And for me, it was working at a call center for 3.5 years, taking 60, 80 calls a day, dealing with ticked off Americans with their AT&T Uverse and Lenovo problems. So that was the kind of the final straw. And so I went back to university, which at 33 was a huge change. I went into visual arts, communication, media, and film with a minor in computer science, because why not do what you already know?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And so I graduated, I did my double major, and I started working in the film industry. And I've been doing DIT, digital imaging technician. So I data wrangle the footage, and I've been doing fairly well with that. And I still do the show. So I've had a great collection of industries over the years, and I'm glad that I've done it, because I've learned so much from the people I've worked with, but also in terms of how do you solve problems that can creep up in terms of the unexpectedness of said problems.
It's awesome, man. Everybody has a great journey. And I like to ask people about their journeys, because it's never just a straight road. It's always, bumps and turns and things you don't expect. No matter the industry. Um, because of your IT background, I want to ask about AI. That's a big topic. The present, future. What are your general thoughts on AI and the direction that it's going, and maybe as it pertains to entertainment and the things we're talking about?
It is going to be brutal for the entertainment industry. You already see it in comics. You already see it in film. You've already seen it in commercials. You've seen it in social media. It is not going away, but it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be issues with it. We already don't know, and this has happened in the past 10 years. We already don't know what's real and what's fake online. And that's scary, because you don't know in today's age of technology and social media. No one researches what's true and what's not. No one goes to a library. No one goes and does actual in-depth searches anymore in terms of what's actually real. And that's a huge factor, especially with entertainment, and a huge factor with your own personal growth. Because if you believe what's on the screen is real, I mean, we've already seen situations where, that's caused serious issues. So when it comes to AI, I think there are great uses for it, but not in the entertainment industry. Unless you're using it for, say, hey, here's the general idea I want to go for, but this is never going to see the light of day other than, say, a meeting face to face. And that'll at least be able to get your point across. As soon as you branch into the avenue of, you used AI to create an article, or you used AI to create a book, you're not an author. You're not a writer. Yeah. You're just using AI to spout out a bunch of, prompts, words, whatever. It isn't your actual writing. So there's uses for it. There's not uses for it. I personally think that if you're creative enough, you can find other inspirations that will help you in your creativity. Like my titles, the images I create. I look at things online that are not AI generated, but I look at inspirations for me in order to say, I like the lighting of, say, this 1980s film or whatever. I like the ability to use these colors in terms of this scene, or, use what you know. And if AI is part of that, then great. If it isn't, then so be it. But Horrible answer to that. I apologize.
No. That's a great answer. And I want to expound a little bit because you mentioned you've already seen it in comic books and film. If you can elaborate on that, just so people that don't, like myself,
Sure.
that don't follow comic books or things very closely, how has it already impacted those industries?
Well, the fact that there's an ongoing lawsuit already, and maybe it's over, who knows? I don't know specifically, but a lot of so AI scrapes the internet for images, video, text, etc., in order to populate their large language model. That's the basis of it, at least. When it comes to comics, there's over a, I don't know, 500 plus page document listing over 20,000 plus creators, alive and dead, specifically in comics, that their data and their images and their information was used to create Sora and used to create whatever other AI generated platforms there were, with no compensation, with no literal saying, hey, do you want to opt into this or not? It's everything. And I just saw this on LinkedIn as well. They've already opted in everyone on LinkedIn in order to use their information and data for their AI model without telling anyone. So, you have to protect yourself from AI. It's not an alarmist. It's the way the world is. But comics specifically, I mean, if you can use Toriyama's Dragon Ball to model something that you've generated from an AI based on your comic, or to create your own comic, I should say, what are you doing? You're tarnishing the legacy of a legend. You're doing that for every single other person that's in this model without their consent. And you're going to call yourself a comic creator. You already see it in Amazon. You already see it on Amazon.com.ca. You already see the AI generated responses. In terms of film, Sora specifically alone, I mean, it's just going to get better and better and better in terms of they already have AI generated models, newscasters. The age of the influencer is going to be over. You're going to see AI influencers in the next 3 years, quite literally, that will take over social media platforms. So all of these influencers currently, like a Mr. Beast, like whatever, even though Mr. Beast's content is more his own style, if you get anyone that has a face that's an influencer on social media, good luck with those brand deals. Good luck with everything else. Companies won't go to them anymore. They'll just go pay an AI model to promote their brand without having to worry about large sums of money going to actual people. So,
wow, that's mind blowing because in my head, the influencer community in business is just starting. That's kind of in its. I didn't feel like it hit its full cycle yet. And if you think 3 years, wow, that could be disruptive. Yeah, hugely disruptive with that. So no, I appreciate the insight on that. Two Geeks Talking. How'd you come up with that title? On a lighter side.
I mean, it was too heavy there for the AI there.
No, it's all good. But yeah, tell me about this title. How'd you come?
So Two Geeks Talking is the final iteration of the show name. Originally, it was TGT Webcomics is when I first started. TGT specifically was Two Guys Talking originally. Huh? And then it became Two Guys Talking, and then I changed it to Two Geeks Talking because Phil was my co-host for 60 episodes at the beginning. A great guy, does amazing work out of California in terms of programming, things like that. Without his knowledge and his personality, the show wouldn't have started. So I really appreciate all of his support. And we met each other playing WoW way back when, World of Warcraft. So late night raids and 3 a.m. East Coast times were not great for me. But I met a lot of friends on that game. So it's just a combination of no matter who's on the show, everyone's a geek, whether they like that moniker or not. I think it's a positive moniker in the sense of, hey, you're a geek of your own profession, of your own creativity. Come on the show. Let's talk. Let's have some fun. And I think it's iconic. I've had people, when I tell people the show, they're like, "Oh yeah, I know that show," or they see the logo, and it's like, I recognize that logo. And so obviously my branding is on point. And I got to thank Dawn Griffin specifically, who created this logo 15 years ago. She did an amazing job with this whole branding and these color schemes and everything like that, and it hasn't changed. And I think it's been a wonderful thing for me, and it's helped my introvertedness become semi-extroverted. I call myself an introverted extrovert.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Well, I could tell just in the way you interview and everything that you've done this a ton of times. And I mean, as you say, over what, 15 years now, at least over a decade, you're doing it. Where do you see the podcast going in the next, what's your next iteration? What's your next step? Maybe 3 to 5 years.
Well, that's a good question, only because I don't know if I should stop at 20 years or not. I think 2 decades is a nice round number. I've done a lot with it. I think I can do more with it. I know I can do more with it. It's just the time and a financial situation right now. Like, can I get enough money? Can I raise enough money with the show in order to keep it going, for one, pay the bills? That's the main thing. And I've been doing a service I've been doing a service lately, specifically, where I interview, I create content from the interview itself, and I create my own customized shorts from said content. And a lot of people that I've had on the show have been taking advantage of that. And I think that's a good business model for what I'm doing, specifically because I like video editing. I like asking questions, and I like showcasing these talented people, maybe with a different flair for their answers that they have on the show. So maybe I'll go past 20 years. Talk to me in 4 years, and we'll get a recap of how I'm doing it.
Awesome. No, we could definitely circle back. And lastly, Kurt, tell us about your social channels. Tell us where you are so the audience can find you and listen to all your great content, past, present, and future.
Well, you can find, of course, Two Geeks Talking on our website, tgtmedia.com. But the website's a little broken right now. So go to our YouTube channel. That's always updated. youtube.com/TGT Media. The podcast you can find at twogeekstalking.podbean.com, or just search Two Geeks Talking wherever you get your podcasts. And as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on, in this case, Adeptus On-Air.
I love it. You're helping me out. And Kurt, it's been great, man. Great talking to you, and thanks for your wisdom. And again, I know that usually you're the one asking all the questions, so thank you for being gracious and answering my questions and providing some insight into the comics, the entertainment industry, and AI and everything in between. And so I really appreciate it. And thanks for joining the Adeptus On-Air.
Oh, and I appreciate it. This is a great time. I loved the interviews you've done as well with your show. Keep up the great work. Maybe I'll get you guys on the show and we'll talk about your journeys. Whoever else is part of this amazing team that's on Adeptus On-Air.
Absolutely. Definitely game for that, Kurt. So let me know when.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.